In the headlines, fresh young faces make up the new government of the People's Progressive Party as 19 ministers are sworn in. The new health minister, Dr. Frank Anthony, says the COVID-19 hospital is an absolute disaster. The safe reopening of schools is among the top priorities for Education Minister Priya Manickchand. Lots of exercise and bush medicine created for Santa Rosa's rapid COVID-19 recoveries. And in sport, football coach sees financial difficulty for the sport being played without spectators. With the news, I'm Kurt Campbell. Thank you for joining us. First up, 3 days after being sworn in as the 9th Executive President of Guyana, Dr. Irfan Ali on Wednesday administered the oath of office to 19 persons who will serve as ministers of his government and members of his cabinet. The swearing-in of the new ministers was done at a simple ceremony held at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. Ali's government will be headed in part by a few newcomers to the political scene and includes a noteworthy youth component. Those newcomers are Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, UTUD, Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Susan Rodriguez, Minister of Public Service, Sonia Parag, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, Deodat Indar, Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Unij Waldron Olikok. Other youth appointees include Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, Nigel Darmlal, Minister of Housing and Water, Colin Crowell, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, Charles Ramson Jr., and Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat. Returning to portfolios they held under the previous PPP government 5 years ago are Minister of Education, Priya Manickchand, and Minister of Amerindian Affairs, Pauline Sukai. The other appointments are Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vindhya Prasad, Minister of Labour, Joseph Hamilton, Minister within the Ministry of Local Government, Anand Prasad, Minister within the Office of the Prime Minister, Kwame McCoy, Minister of Public Works, Juan Edel. President Ali previously sworn retired Brigadier Mark Phillips as Prime Minister, Barjak Dios Vice President, Gail Teixeira as Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, and Anil Nandlal as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. The Newsroom spoke with some of the new government ministers shortly after they were sworn in.
I gave my ideas and they were accepted, my efforts were respected, and of course you can see that it was rewarded. And this is very encouraging not only for the young people within our party and within government, but young people in Guyana generally, that they can see that, you know, there is potential out there, and as long as you work hard and you're committed, that you can become anything you want.
Great. Of course, you've been in the private sector your whole life. You're now in government. I know it's been a very short time, but have you had time to think about what are some priority areas you'd like to dive into?
Yes, well, there was no indication before that I would be given this portfolio. I do have a construction background and real estate. And so, you know, when I met with the president yesterday, he said, you know, I'm giving you this because I know you're a hard worker. And you know, and he said, we have to be results oriented, which is what he said today. And what we've been saying throughout the campaign, that we have to deliver. We don't have a choice. I mean, it's very difficult now with the economy that we've inherited, but we're not going to make excuses. We're going to put our shoulders to the wheel, and we're going to ensure that we deliver for the people of Guyana.
Well, I'm taking it day by day, but when the president asked me to serve yesterday, I said yes. He asked me to serve in this capacity. As you rightly said, my strong suit is business, finance, and so on, but I'm an operations guy too. I get things done. I have a track record of getting things done. And the president has asked me to go to this ministry, make sure that his transformational agenda on the infrastructure of the country becomes a reality. So, as you know, we campaigned a lot on the Deepwater Harbor. We campaigned a lot on the Demerara Harbor Bridge, the Del Conte Road, the bypass road, better drainage and irrigation in the country, better roads, bridges, the maritime department. So there's a cost of energy, the Amelia Fall. So there's a lot of things that we campaigned on, and the president would like to see that the skills that I possess be used for the service of the country, to evaluate the feasibility of these things quickly, get these projects out quickly, so that within the first 5 years we can able to kickstart these projects, right? So my job within the ministry is to actually do that, right? So we will further see the refinement of what we have to do, prioritizing the agenda, and make sure that we get these things out quickly, because as if you go around the country, you'll find that most of the roads, the bridges, and so some of them are not in proper state. You from the countryside, you know, we both from the countryside, you drive around, is the holes in you can't find the car. So we had to fix all of those things, right? So we have the normal work that the public ministry, public works ministry is going to deal with, but then on top of that is the transformational agenda of the Finale's administration, and that is what we got to make into reality, right? Obviously, you know, those are large projects, and they will be, you know, they will have to go through a process of feasibility, and then you get financing, and then you go into it, right? So that is what we have.
Meanwhile, President Ali did not appoint anyone to serve as the Minister of Finance. The absence of such an important portfolio being left vacant did not go unnoticed, with President Ali being called upon by the media for an explanation. He would only say that he was still searching for a candidate to fill the post of Finance Minister. Asked whether he was considering Dr. Ashley Singh for the post, President Ali said he reached out to no one in relation to heading the Ministry of Finance. Dr. Singh served as the Finance Minister in the PPP government for several years before it lost the 2015 elections. Dr. Ali explained that the Office of the President will be assuming responsibility for financial matters until a minister is found. He said his government has already begun an assessment of the economy in its push to prepare its first budget. We tell you now that President Ali Wednesday boasted of appointing a results-oriented team to head his new government and make up his cabinet. Here is his charge to the new government ministers.
These ministers will be held accountable not only by the executive, the parliament, but more importantly, by the people of this country. I expect that this team will be results-oriented, that this team will work in an efficient and transparent manner. The multifaceted nature of the skill set that comprise the team is what I believe Guyana requires in ensuring we fulfill the aspirations of all the people of this country. I say to the families of the ministers, sometimes we forget the families. You will have to provide a supportive role. And there will be sacrifices that are required, because this job is not a three-to-four job. But I am sure that we're all committed to this task in giving our bit in the interest of our country and for the betterment of the Guyanese people. We move swiftly to the appointment of these ministers because there is a lot of work to be done. You will have noticed that we're realigning functions of government to remove duplicity, to make it easier to conduct business with government, to reduce bureaucracy, to improve efficiency, and to ensure that we operate in a cost-effective, productive, and results-oriented manner. That is the focus. The team also provides newness, youthful energy, experience, freshness, and of course, the skill set that are of immediate importance as we tackle important issues of constitutional reform, electoral reform, and other aspects of governance, including reform of the security sector, managing of natural resources, managing of the agricultural sector, and reaching out to every segment of the Guyanese population.
The Health Minister, Dr. Frank Anthony, says the COVID-19 hospital is an absolute disaster, and the safe reopening of schools is among the top priority for Education Minister Priya Manickchand. Those and more stories when the newsroom returns. Welcome back. You're watching the newsroom. Newly appointed Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony has promised immediate concerted action and the implementation of a new and synchronized structure that is more responsive to the COVID-19 pandemic with the hope of bringing it under control. Speaking to the newsroom moments after his appointment on Wednesday, Dr. Anthony said since President Dr. Irfan Ali was sworn in on Sunday, the new People's Progressive Party government has placed the COVID-19 situation among its priorities. He also described the new COVID-19 hospital as an absolute disaster.
We would have seen over the last, I think, week or so that a new hospital has been launched by the previous president. Well, what we have there is an absolute disaster because we have spent $1.6 billion and we literally have a shell. You have a building, there's no equipment, no bed. That building is supposed to house 197 beds. The beds, you got different types, the regular ones, the ICU, high dependency beds. For example, in the ICU, I think they were catering for about 20 adult beds, and they had another section for about 10 pediatric beds. But one of the requirements, a basic requirement of an ICU, is to ensure that you have centralized oxygen, suction, and those types of things. Now, you don't want to wheel in a 200-pound cylinder and put it next to the bedside, because every time you do that, the risk of infection and those things goes up in a unit like this. So the ideal is to make sure that these things are constructed and put into the walls, and you have outlets that come from the wall. That wasn't done. So we have refurbished this place and forget to put in all the essential things that are required for a proper ICU. So to utilize that building, we'll probably have to go and break those walls to install these kinds of pipes and outlets and so forth. So it's a lot of money, I would imagine, to go renovate. So I have a technical team that has started to look at some of those things, what we need to fix. We have spent $1.6 billion. Not a single piece of equipment is there. If you're going to treat COVID, severe COVID patients with complications and so forth, as you know, you need ventilators, you need a whole set of things. Nothing is there. So to buy those things, we have to buy them, put them in place. We'll have to buy the consumables. And those two, I'm trying to get costs.
The safe reopening of schools in keeping with children's constitutional right to be educated is among the top priorities for the newly appointed Minister of Education, Priya Manickchand. Manickchand, who served previously as Minister of Education in the PPP government before it lost the 2015 election, was sworn in once again as Education Minister on Wednesday. She spoke with the newsroom shortly after.
The thing of paramount importance right now is going to be what we do when schools should have been reopened. Do we open? If we open, how do we keep our children and our teachers and their families safe? Do we not open? And if we don't open, then how do we continue to engage our children? So the balance is going to be with their constitutional duty to be educated, a right to be educated, and our duty to keep population safe. And it's going to be a fine. It's never going to be easy. We're going to make sure we use science and medicine and the statistics at hand and the stories around Guyana to determine what to do. Like every other country, it's not going to be an easy question to face. But I think important is that we get out information to our parents and teachers. And so that's going to be the first thing we do. And it's probably not going to be resolved within a day, because we really have to check. If you look at various countries, some countries have opened very successfully schools like Denmark and so on. They've used the bubble method where you have no more than 12 children appropriately distanced, masked, hand washing and all that, and then and they've done very well with that. But then Israel did the same thing, moved from the bubble method 2 weeks after they opened, and their numbers went through the roof, with large numbers of children and teachers being infected and or quarantined for being suspected of being infected. Guyana, bubble method sounds really nice on paper, but could our schools accommodate that? So we have to make sure we use the science of what is we know about COVID, along with our statistics here and our realities about classrooms and spacings and the availability of clean water to wash hands and all that. So those would be some of the considerations we're going to be looking at, but that is of paramount importance right now to us.
I hate to put you on the spot, but realistically, do you see September schools reopening?
Right, so it would be really precipitate for me to speak about that right now. I know as a parent, I'm extremely concerned that very concerned, and if I have that concern, I can only imagine every single other parent has that concern, and definitely our teachers must be worried. So we know that we need to answer those questions for people very early so that they know what they're doing, because we're not unaware too that when children go to school, so you have this thing where parents work and their kids are at school. If they have to stay home, then parents would need to make arrangements who are going back to work and so on. So we know it's something we need to address early, and it will be addressed early and with the best information we have to keep our population safe.
Other priority areas you can talk to us about?
Well, Neil, we have huge priority areas like curriculum reform and so on. We're teaching way too many things too early, and we're not sure if, well, I'm not sure if that those subjects and the content is relevant to Guyana today and what we expect Guyana to be in a few years' time, given our new realities and so on. But honestly, those things are miniature compared to the COVID and addressing that. So, because it's not only addressing COVID. Look, our children have been home for 5 months now. Grade 5 children who are presently in grade 5 would not have covered content that they need to write for the grade 6 exam next year. So this goes all the way into 2021. So it's a very wide, it has affected the education sector very widely, and it needs to be properly thought out, whatever way.
When the newsroom returns, ANAG, TNM and LJP says they will not be pushed around or be irrelevant during the life of the 12th Parliament. And lots of exercise and bush medicine created for Santa Rosa's rapid COVID-19 recoveries. Welcome back, you're watching the newsroom. The three political parties which joined their list and won a seat in the National Assembly said they are not prepared to be pushed around or be irrelevant in the life of the 12th Parliament. The parties have not yet decided who their list parliamentarians will be. Bibi Katoon reports.
The Liberty and Justice Party, LJP, a New and United Guyana, ANAG, and the New Movement have emerged as the third voice in the 65-member National Assembly, having won over 5,000 votes at the March polls. The parties met on Tuesday evening to discuss the way forward, after which they engaged the media. Jonathan Yearwood, who is tipped to be one of ANAG's representatives in the National Assembly, said the parties will not join the PPP or the APNU-AFC, but he said they will put Guyanese first when voting on bills or motions.
So we have a voice that will have to be heard in Parliament, and we're not prepared to sit back and be a backroom or an irrelevant section of Parliament. We're going out there and we're going to fight for the Guyanese people, what we consider the best things for the Guyanese people. And if it means joining with the APNU-AFC, the opposition, for certain bills, we will. If we join with the PPP and the government for certain bills, we will, provided those bills are in the benefit of all Guyanese.
He hopes that the joined parties can force the two larger political parties to collaborate on key topics. By virtue of winning most votes of the joinder list, the LJP will take the seat first, followed by ANAG, then TNM. LJP, despite having 5 months before the elections concluded, has not yet named its candidate. The leader of the party, Lennox Schumann, said this will be done before Friday and submitted to the Guyana Elections Commission.
We still have to reach out to the people and then decide on a date that suits everyone. But we will anticipate that it should be before Friday because we have to submit that name to GCOM. So before Friday. And once that is submitted, the press will be notified.
The LJP will serve for 2.5 years, after which the candidate will resign and make way for ANAG, which will serve the second term, having won the second most votes of 2,313. Asked what will be done if one candidate refuses to resign, Schumann assured that this will not happen as the parties have all signed written documents on their commitments. TNM, which won 244 votes, will serve the final few months in the National Assembly before the 2025 elections. Leader of the TNM, Dr. Asha Kisoon, said The person to fill this post will be elected via a vote from the executive of the party.
Whoever is going to sit in Parliament for the new movement will be selected by a democratic decision where all the executives place their vote, and only then would that person be made known to the public. Thank you very much.
Bibi Katun reporting for the Newsroom.
Antonio Torres, a 28-year-old secondary school teacher in Santa Rosa, Maruca in Region 1, and the recovered COVID-19 patient, has credited his recovery to lots of exercise and what is known in Guyana as bush medicine. Isanella Patwa reports.
Antonio Torres is among the first set of positive cases in Santa Rosa, Maruca Region 1, and was one of the last to leave isolation. Torres told the Newsroom during a telephone interview on Wednesday that daily exercise and an alternative treatment of bush medicine played a major role in the fast recovery in Santa Rosa. He explained that the medicine was a blend of different herbs. Torres' father is the only recorded COVID-19 death in Region 1.
I was next to two neighbors, and these guys, they were scaring me because they had symptoms, you know. One, his foot was actually getting numb and he's feeling like it's going. The other was coughing a lot. I mean, I would advise the people to do exercise because that's what I told the guys, to exercise. And then those symptoms went away. And they also drank a lot of bush medicines as well.
The bush medicine was given to as many patients that would take it, and Torres highlighted that the COVID-19 doctors had no issue with this.
And you just drink a half, one of the sanitary cups. Half of that and once a day.
Why did you look at this treatment, this form of treatment?
Oh, because after my dad died, he had dengue, and then I researched and that was a virus coming up. And then some professors thought, hey, this kind of bacteria, and so it's good for dengue. So I was like, wait, dengue is a virus, and this COVID-19 is a virus, so maybe this could probably work also.
Santa Rosa is now COVID-19 free and no new cases were reported in recent days. Torres, who tested positive on May 25th and spent 53 days in isolation, said positive messages from friends and family also added to their recovery. Meanwhile, his mother, 49-year-old Yvette Torres, who is also a teacher, tested positive. She spent 6 weeks in isolation. The young Torres explained that he and his mother took his father to the Kumaka hospital 2 days before he died. He is disappointed in the hospital and believes that more could have been done to help him. The man was experiencing fever and shortness of breath.
Dad, he actually went to the hospital before, 2 days before, and they just took his pressure and they sent him away. That was it. And then I heard of the next guy, he was there with the same condition like that, and he was admitted, and then he recovered. Because that guy went unconscious to the hospital. My dad was still conscious. Well, it's been really rough, having a death in the family and then being isolated. It's really tough.
Torres does not know when or how his father contracted the virus, but said that his father had traveled to Essequibo 2 weeks prior to his death. To date, there is no approved cure for the deadly disease. Ghana's interior regions continue to see increases in positive cases. A total of 497 cases were recorded on August 4th, 2020. Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Isanella Patwo.
We tell you now that the family of Guyana's latest COVID-19 victim, who died at the Georgetown Hospital on Tuesday, is unclear as to how he contracted the disease since he lived alone in Betterforwacting on the east coast of Demerara. Newbert Grant's family was informed that he tested positive for COVID-19 after he was admitted at the Georgetown Public Hospital.
79-year-old Norbert Grant left his Betterforwacting East Coast Demerara home on July 9th to visit the Davis Memorial Hospital after he complained of chest and back pains. Grant was treated at the private hospital and sent away, but after his condition did not improve, the father of 3 was taken to the Georgetown Public Hospital on July 18th, where he was admitted. A few days later, the family was informed that he tested positive for COVID-19. The family never saw him again. His sister Paulette Garnett spoke with the Newsroom on Wednesday.
I have no idea, none at all.
Did he live alone?
Yes, he lived alone.
Okay. So no one would visit him? Any of the family members tested positive after he tested?
Not that I know about.
Grant died around midday Tuesday in the COVID-19 intensive care unit. The Newsroom understands that Grant had gastrointestinal bleeding. He was recorded as the country's 22nd COVID-19 death.
Complained about the pain in his stomach and his back, and that's what we knew that he went to the hospital. He hadn't visited the hospital before. It's just that, well, he had this pain and whatever, and I was advised that he needed to go to the hospital to be looked after, and that's where he went.
Okay.
But he had been home.
2 days prior to Grant's death, a 34-year-old East Bank Demerara man also died from COVID-19. Dud Kumar Sukraj was registered as Guyana's 21st COVID-19 death. He passed away on Thursday, July 30th, but the information was only released to the media on August 2nd. Guyana on August 4th continued to see a steady increase in positive cases. A total of 497 cases were recorded yesterday. Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Isanel Patwo.
When the Newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to the Newsroom, now for a look at what's happening in sport. Former Golden Jaguars head coach Wayne Dover is of the opinion that the Guyana Football Federation, like some of its Caribbean counterparts, has an uphill financial challenge given the COVID-19 restrictions on the attendance of spectators at matches. Akim Green spoke to the coach and filed this report.
Contact sport has not been given a green light in Guyana as yet, but when such is allowed to recommence, it is highly improbable that fans will be allowed into venues anytime soon. Apart from such, Dover anticipates funding will become a bit more harder to access, which leaves the burden on the association.
In the Caribbean, this will be a careful process for the administrators to be looking to see how best and when best to actually return to football, because we already face a financial challenge with regard to sponsorship, government input, and such like, and federation financial constraints and so. So definitely the Caribbean, Guyana and the Caribbean would need to ensure that they be very careful with when they actually return to playing days, to have fans in the ground to actually boost finances that is very much needed.
Though in recent years, spectator attendance at matches has dropped significantly, which has without doubt affected the income of the federation, to sustain a league without any sort of revenue from gates will be even more difficult, according to Dover.
Without the fans going to these games, it would be almost impossible to actually get the league up and running again, because sponsorship is one of the biggest problems we will be facing. And unless the federation decide to go in on the minimum coffers, to the coffers that is very minimum in finances, to sponsor these tournaments, right, and not see any attendance by the patrons, I don't know which other association can do such thing and have it run without the spectators being there to actually bring some finances into the game. So it will be a very difficult situation for Guyana and the Caribbean to return to football without fans being present.
Randy Harris, president of the Caribbean Football Union, had stated, in the Caribbean, football administrators will not be able to sustain the game without fans. Harris indicated that unlike the rest of the federations affiliated to the sport's global governing body, football in the region is heavily dependent on the support of FIFA and spectators. More so, former Jamaican national footballer Aldrick Ali McNabb had expressed, open quote, "Football is the biggest sport throughout the Caribbean, so when you're not having people playing, the entertainment value is lost and the developmental value is lost to the youngsters." End quote. For the Newsroom, Akim Green.
The Guyana Football Federation's 2020-2021 preseason transfer window has now been extended to August 23, 2020 in order to accommodate any hindrances that interested parties might have experienced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic situation. This decision was made in consultation with its regional member associations, affiliates and elite league clubs endorsed by FIFA following an official request from the Federation. According to the FIFA correspondence dated August 5, the endorsement was granted consistent with the guidelines and decisions regarding COVID-19 approved by the Bureau of the Council on April 6, 2020 and FIFA Circular number 1720. Meanwhile, President Wayne Ford said the GFF is actively drawing up plans for a robust restart of football nationally and would like to give each registered club the opportunity to prepare for a competitive season. The GFF will be announcing these plans once the COVID-19 task force and the Ministry of Public Health provide the requisite clearance for the resumption of competitive sport. The Ghana Teachers Union, GTU, and Next Gen Golf Academy have entered into an agreement that will provide for the expansion of the golf training and practice in Georgetown at the Wolford Avenue location. More in this report.
The academy, under the supervision of the Ghana Golf Association, will commence training of sports directors and PE teachers who will then take the sport back to their local districts and in turn teach the theoretical aspects of the game. Students will then attend the academy for practical training. With over 11,000 teachers under the GTU umbrella, this partnership will allow for the rapid promotion and expansion of the sport to all regions of the country. President of the Ghana Teachers Union, Mark Light, said, and I quote, "As the vanguard of learning, it is our duty to explore all options that enable our teachers and students to explore new horizons and experiences. The fact that we have golf in our sports curriculum but previously had no facility for students to learn was a major concern, and by partnering with Next Gen Golf Academy, we have effectively solved several problems at once," end quote. General Secretary Coretta MacDonald was the driving force behind the collaboration that will see an upgrade of the entire ground. A portion will be shared by the entities for various sports and other activities, and a portion dedicated to golfing activities. Completion of the renovations of the ground will include elevation, drainage, fencing, security lights and cameras, and landscaping. The academy provides all equipment and balls and is an option to exercise in a manner that conforms to the COVID-19 restrictions, with the cost for children being as low as $500 Ghana per hour.
England endured a difficult start to the first test against Pakistan on a frustrating opening day at Emirates Old Trafford. The visitors moved to 139-2 in between 41 overs, being lost to rain and bad light. They had been 43 for 2 before Babar Azam stroked a classy unbeaten 69 in a partnership of 96 with opener Sham Masood, who is 46 not out. They scored increasingly freely against an England side who lost their way with the ball after lunch. Wicketkeeper Josh Butler dropped an edge off Masood and missed a straightforward chance to stump the same man from the bowling of Don Bess, either side of a 3-hour break for rain. And with that, we've come to the end of this newscast. On behalf of the news and technical teams, I'm Kurt Campbell saying good evening.